Taurus, look at the year you were born. Go ahead, take the last digit. That number isn't an accident, and what I'm about to reveal to you about it in the next few minutes will explain so much about your life that you'll be shocked. Those feelings you never knew how to name, those patterns that repeat themselves without apparent logic, that strange feeling that there's something about you that no one has ever seen. All of that is connected to that number. And no one, absolutely no one, has had the courage to tell you this truth until now. Because you see, this isn't about cheap numerology or empty mysticism. It's about code, a birth code, something that's been imprinted on your essence since the first second you breathed. And this code determines not who you are, but how you process life, how you feel pain, how you experience love, how you deal with loss, and above all, why you've always felt different from other Tauruses you know. Because you are, and always have been. And this number explains why. So before we continue, I need you to do something. Take a deep breath and get ready, because what comes next will remove a veil that has been over your eyes for years. And when you see it for the first time, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to ignorance. You're going to have to deal with what I'm going to show you. You're going to have to face truths about yourself that you've been avoiding, and that's not comfortable. But it's necessary. Because you can't continue living in the dark about who you really are. How many times have you looked around and thought, why doesn't anyone work the way I do? This isn't paranoia, Taurus. This is real. You're not like the others. And your birth year number proves it mathematically, because here's what they never told you. Each last digit carries a different frequency, and that frequency shapes how you've always interacted with the world. It's not destiny. It's not predestination, it's configuration. It's as if you came from the factory with a different operating system, and you've spent your whole life trying to run programs that weren't made for you. That's why everything seems harder. That's why you feel out of place. That's why you get tired faster than others, doing the same things. This number determines your blind spot, that area of your life where you are completely vulnerable without even realizing it. That place where you always get hurt, always stumble, always repeat the same mistakes. And you blame yourself. You think it's stupidity, weakness, lack of willpower, but it's none of that. It's just that you're operating without the instruction manual for your own existence. And today, right now, you're going to receive that manual. But before I reveal what each number means, I need to prepare you for something. When you discover the truth about your number, many things will suddenly make sense. And that will be liberating, but it will also hurt, because you will realize how many years you wasted fighting against your own nature, how many decisions you made trying to be what you weren't, how many times you betrayed yourself thinking you were growing or maturing, when in reality you were just mutilating yourself to fit into spaces that were never yours. Now pay attention, because I'm going to be very direct. If your birth year ends in 0, you are the Taurus of constant reinvention. And that's not a motivational quality. It's both a curse and a blessing at the same time. You can't stay still. You can't be content with anything for very long. People see you as a Taurus, stable, reliable, fixed, but inside you are a chaos of change. You build beautiful and solid things and then feel an inexplicable need to destroy everything and start over. And you blame yourself for it. You think there's something wrong with you, but there isn't. You were born for cycles. You were born to die and be reborn several times within the same life. And the more you try to resist this, the more you will suffer. The question no one has asked you yet is, how many lives do you need to live before you accept that you weren't made for permanence? If it ends in 1, you are the lonely Taurus. And it's not because you choose it, but because you have no alternative. There's something about you that people can't reach, a depth, an intensity, a way of feeling things that scares others. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone, because nobody really sees you. Nobody delves as deeply as you need, and you've given up trying to explain. You've accepted that you'll carry certain things alone. But here's what nobody told you. This solitude isn't a flaw. It's protection. You feel too much, perceive too much, process too much. If you opened yourself completely, if you let people into the depth where you live, they couldn't handle it. And you know that. So you choose solitude instead of superficial connections. And that's courage, not weakness. But answer me this: how long will you accept emotional crumbs when your soul needs a feast? If it ends in two, you are the divided Taurus. And that's literal. There's a permanent civil war inside you. One part of you wants security, routine, predictability. Another part wants adventure, risk, chaos, and these two parts will never make peace. Never. You'll spend your whole life oscillating between I need stability and I need freedom. And the people around you don't understand. They think you're indecisive, confused, immature, but you're none of that. You're too complete. You carry opposites within you, and neither can be ignored. So you live in this constant tension, and it's exhausting. But it's also what makes you capable of understanding all sides of any situation. You never judge too quickly because you know the truth is never simple. But this comes at a price. You rarely feel peace. And the question remains, are you willing to accept that perhaps the tension is your nature, not a problem to be solved? If it ends in 3, you are the performative Taurus. And that will shock you because you don't see yourself that way. You think you're discreet, reserved, simple, but you're not. Everything in your life is theater. Not in a false sense, but in the sense that you are always aware of how others perceive you. You control the narrative. You choose what to show and what to hide with surgical precision. And people think they know you, but they're only seeing the part you've decided to show. And here's the problem. You've done this for so long that sometimes even you no longer know what's real and what's performance. You've lost touch with the authentic version of yourself because it's buried under layers of protection. And now you're afraid that if you take off the masks, nothing will be left. But the truth is the opposite. There's so much under the masks that you can't even imagine who you really are. And that terrifies and fascinates you at the same time. So tell me, when was the last time you did something without thinking about how it would look to others? If it ends in 4, you are the trapped Taurus. And that's not a metaphor. You are literally trapped. Trapped in situations you don't want. Trapped in relationships that are already dead. Trapped in jobs that drain your soul. And you know it. You know you need to get out, but you can't, because you're terrified of instability, terrified of starting from scratch, terrified of disappointing the people who depend on you. So you stay, you endure, you swallow it, and you convince yourself that this is responsibility, that this is maturity. But it's not. It's fear disguised as virtue. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to get out, because the prison becomes comfortable. You get used to the bars, and there comes a point where you don't even remember what it's like to live free anymore. And here's the painful truth. Nobody will free you. Nobody will open the cage door. You are the one who has to do it, and you know it. You always have. The question is, how much longer will you postpone your own liberation? If your last name ends in 5, you are the restless Taurus. And people don't believe you when you say that because you seem so stable on the outside. But inside you're a hurricane. You have 1,000 ideas, 1,000 desires, 1,000 versions of who you could be, and you want to experience them all. But you can't, because life demands choices. It demands commitment, and you hate that. You hate having to choose one path and abandon all the others, because each choice feels like death, the death of all the possibilities you won't live, and that paralyzes you. You're stuck between doing everything and doing nothing. And time passes, and you remain in the same place, full of potential, full of dreams, but never actually achieving anything. And frustration corrodes you, because you know you could do so much, be so much, live so much. But you don't, because doing so would mean giving up everything you didn't choose, and that breaks your heart. But answer me this: is it more worthwhile to live 1,000 lives in your imagination, or one real life? If your name ends in 6, you are the sacrificial bull. And you don't even realize how much you negate yourself, how much you put everyone else before yourself, how much you believe your value lies in serving, in helping, in being available to everyone. And people love that. They love having you around because you solve problems, you hold things together, you never disappoint. But do you know who you disappoint every day? Yourself. Because you don't live for yourself. You live to please, to keep the peace, to avoid causing problems. And in the process, you disappear. You become a ghost in your own life. And when you finally realize this, when you finally see that you've spent years, maybe decades, being what others needed instead of who you wanted to be, it's too late. Or at least it seems that way. But it's not. It's never too late for you to decide that you also matter, that your desires also count, that you also deserve to be a priority. But that requires something that terrifies you, being selfish. And the real question is, when will you understand that taking care of yourself isn't selfishness, it's survival? If your last name ends in 7, you are the mystical Taurus, and you hide it. You hide it because you're ashamed. Ashamed to admit that you feel things you can't explain, that you know things you shouldn't know, that you perceive energies, sense situations, pick up information that doesn't come from the 5 senses, and you learn to silence it. Because when you were a child and talked about these things, nobody believed you, or worse, they thought you were strange. So you buried that part of yourself. You rationalized it. You convinced yourself that they were coincidences, imagination, nothing important. But inside you, that sensitivity continued to pulsate, and it guides you, even if you don't admit it, even if you don't trust it. It keeps you away from danger. It takes you to the right places. It connects you with important people. But because you don't honor that part of yourself, you live in constant conflict. Half of you knows, the other half doubts, and that drives you crazy because you're never sure what's real and what's an illusion. And here's the secret: everything you feel is real, but you need to stop trying to prove it to others and start trusting yourself. The question is, do you have the courage to embrace the side of yourself that logic can't explain? If your last name ends in 8, you are the Taurus of extremes. And that means you don't know what moderation is. You are all or nothing. You love with an intensity that is frightening. You work to exhaustion, or you don't work at all. You dedicate yourself completely, or you give up entirely. And people judge you for it. They say you need to find balance, but you can't. Because balance for you seems lukewarm. It seems tepid. It seems like not really living. You only feel alive when you are on the edge, when you are risking everything, when you are feeling everything. And yes, this hurts you constantly. You burn out, you exhaust yourself, you lose things because you don't know how to moderate. But that's also what makes you capable of extraordinary things, because you go beyond, always. You don't accept enough. You want the maximum. And that is dangerous and beautiful at the same time. The problem is that the people around you can't handle this intensity. They get tired, they give up, and you are alone again. But maybe, just maybe, you don't need many people. You need a few who can keep up with your depth. And the important question is, will you continue to diminish yourself to fit into the lukewarm lives of others? Or will you accept that you were born to burn? If it ends in 9, you are the conclusive Taurus. And that weighs on you. It weighs on you because you feel like you're always closing cycles, always ending chapters, always saying goodbye. And you hate that, because Taurus seeks permanence, continuity, security. But you came with the opposite mission. You came to finalize, to end what needs to end, to let go of what needs to leave. And that hurts in a way that nobody understands. Because people see you letting things go and think you don't care, that you're cold, that you give up easily. But the truth is the opposite. You care too much, so much so that you know when something is over before others realize it. You feel when the energy has changed, when the connection has died, when there's nothing left to do, and you don't have the strength to pretend you still do. So you let go. And people judge you. They call you a coward, a quitter, but you're not. You're courageous, because letting go of what you love requires much more courage than holding on out of fear. And here's what you need to understand. You're not here to build eternal things. You're here to honor cycles, to let things last as long as they need to last. No more, no less. And the question remains, when will you stop blaming yourself for letting go of what's already finished? Now breathe, because I know you just saw yourself in at least one of those profiles in a way that scared you. And maybe you cried, maybe you felt angry, maybe you finally understood why your life is the way it is. And all of that is valid, because this revelation is not small, it's huge. It's about you understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, there never was. You were just trying to be a type of Taurus that you're not. And here's the turning point. Now that you know, now that you've seen your naked truth, you can no longer pretend. You can no longer betray yourself. You can no longer force a way of being that isn't yours. And that will change everything. Because when you finally start living according to your true nature, when you stop fighting against your nature, life gets easier. Not perfect, not painless, but easier. Because you stop swimming against the current. And there's one thing I need to tell you before I finish. This number isn't a prison. It's a map. It shows you the terrain, but you choose the path. It reveals your tendencies, but you decide what to do with them. You're not condemned to repeat the same patterns forever. But you need to know them first. You need to look at them without judgment. You need to accept that, yes, you have these characteristics. And then, only then, can you consciously decide what to do with them. So look again at the last digit of your birth year. Look and recognize. That number explains so much. It explains why you feel the way you feel, why you act the way you act, why certain things are easy for you and others impossible. And now you have a choice. Continue fighting against it or start working with it. The second option is much, much smarter. And here's what nobody ever told you about that number. It also reveals your superpower. That thing that only you can do the way you do it. That thing that comes naturally to you, but that others have to strive to achieve. And you've been ignoring this superpower. You're even ashamed of it sometimes because you think everyone can do it, but no, only you. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop trying to be mediocre at things that don't matter and start being exceptional at what you were born to do. And there's something else that needs to be said here, something that will deeply affect you. This number you carry doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. The people who love you, who hate you, who depend on you. They are all dealing with the consequences of your configuration without even knowing it exists. When you explode for no apparent reason, when you shut down without explanation, when you drastically change overnight, it's not about them. It never was. It's about you trying to survive within a system that wasn't designed to withstand the intensity of your number. And you know what's saddest about all this? You've been apologizing your whole life for being who you are. You've been apologizing for feeling too much, for needing more time alone, for not being able to adapt, for not being normal like other Tauruses. But Taurus, listen to this carefully. You don't need apologies. You need understanding. And the first person who needs to understand you is yourself. Because when you understand that your way of functioning is legitimate, that it's not a flaw, that it doesn't need fixing, everything changes. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop accepting less than you deserve. You stop forcing yourself into spaces that were never yours. Let me tell you something about the relationships you've been in. They fail not because you're not good enough. They fail because you attract people who are trying to fix you. People who see your intensity, your complexity, your difference, and think they can help you be simpler, lighter, easier to deal with. And you, wanting to be loved, wanting to prove you're worth it, try to mold yourself, try to diminish yourself, try to fit into the box they brought you. But it doesn't work. It never works. Because you don't fit. And when you finally explode, when you can't pretend anymore, they abandon you, saying you've changed. that you're not who you used to be. But the truth is, you were never who you pretended to be. And here's what you most need to hear today. The right people for you won't need you to explain yourself. They will see you with your numbers, your intensity, all your complexity, and they will simply accept you. They won't try to change you. They won't ask you to be less. They will dive into the depths with you. They will understand your silences. They will respect your cycles. And when you find these people, you will realize that you've spent your whole life relating to the wrong ones because you thought the problem was you. But there's work you need to do before those people arrive. You need to stop betraying yourself. You need to stop saying everything's fine when it's not. You need to stop swallowing your feelings to maintain peace. You need to stop accepting emotional crumbs as if they were banquets. Because as long as you do that, as long as you allow yourself to be treated any old way, just to avoid being alone, the right people won't be able to reach you. The space is occupied, and you know it. Now I'm going to tell you something that might sound harsh, but you need to hear it. You're afraid. Afraid that if you show who you really are, if you live up to your expectations, to your truth, no one will stay. And this fear paralyzes you. It makes you accept situations that kill you inside. It makes you pretend everything is okay when you're falling apart. It makes you smile when you want to scream. And this, Taurus, this is slowly destroying you. Because you weren't born to live halfway. You weren't born to be a light version of yourself. You were born to be whole, intense, true. And if people can't handle that, the problem is theirs, not yours. And there's something about the future that you need to understand. It's already being built now. Every decision you make based on fear of rejection, every time you betray yourself to be accepted, every moment you choose the false version of yourself, all of that is building a future where you no longer recognize yourself. A future where you look in the mirror and don't know who that person is. A future where you have everything you thought you wanted, but nothing your soul truly needs. And you don't want to get there. I know you don't. So the time to change is now, not tomorrow. Not after you're ready, now. Because let me tell you a secret, you'll never be completely ready. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never feel that absolute certainty you seek before acting. And if you keep waiting for that, you'll wait forever. Life doesn't work that way. Life demands that you leap before you have all the guarantees, that you trust yourself even when you're trembling with fear, that you choose your truth even without knowing where it will lead you. And it's scary. But it's also the only way to truly live. And you know what else? That number you carry, that code that defines you, it's not just yours. There are other people in the world who were born in the same year as you, who have the same last digit, and they are going through the same struggles, feeling the same pain, living through the same internal conflicts, and you don't even know they exist. You don't even know that you could recognize each other, understand each other, support each other. But maybe that's what needs to change. Maybe you need to start looking for your tribe, the people who function like you, who feel like you, who won't judge you for being too intense, too different, too complicated, because they are too. Now tell me something, and be honest with yourself. How many versions of you exist? How many masks do you wear depending on where you are and who you're with? How many different selves have you created to survive in environments that don't accept you as you are? Because I know there's more than one. I know there's the you at work, the you with your family, the you with your friends, and none of them are completely real. They are all carefully calibrated performances to keep you safe, accepted, loved. But what is the price of that? The price is you, the real you. The one buried under all those layers of protection. And it's suffocating. It's begging to breathe. And you keep pushing it down because you're afraid of what will happen if it shows up. But let me tell you what happens when you finally let it show. Freedom, peace, relief. For the first time in your life, you truly breathe. You no longer need to calculate every word, every gesture, every reaction. You simply are. And yes, some people will leave. They'll say you've changed. that you're not the same anymore, and they're right. You're not the same anymore. You're better. You're real. And those who can't handle your reality never deserved your presence. Is it painful? Yes, but it's necessary, because you can't keep dying inside just to keep people comfortable with your lies. Now tell me, are you going to continue living as if that number doesn't matter, as if that truth doesn't exist? Or are you finally going to have the courage to live according to who you really are, not who they said you should be? Because that's the choice, and it's yours. It always has been. And after everything you've discovered today, you can no longer plead ignorance, And now you decide what you do with that knowledge.